Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Welcome to the second session of our mini bootcamp HTML&CSS. So last time we mentioned about the history of HTML and then very basic tags elements of HTML, and then we even went through the design of the elements on the web page. So we ended up building our very simple kind of design, including the header, image, link tag, which is a tag, and then other essential HTML tags. So I think most of you are joining from previous class, and as well as there are other participants joining maybe first time, and they're really welcome you guys. And if you have any questions regarding HTML based on the previous week topics, please feel free, just raise your hand and or turn on your mic so you can ask any question. And then today we will be talking about CSS. So you guys see my screen now, the browser and then the design we did last time.
Yes.
Awesome. So this is the design, and then let me share my code as well. So we have multiple alternatives to design, to write the syntax, the code of the any web page. Maybe using one of them is Notepad, regular notebook of any the operating system. So you can find this in the Mac, in Windows, in Linux as well. Also, we mentioned that we can build our codes using Codepen, if you remember Codepen, right? So this is a great place where you can run HTML, CSS, JavaScript codes on directly on your browser. So you can log in with one of your single sign-in methods. I think I can open this with the Chrome. That would be more simpler, hopefully. So Codepen. Yeah. And then, so I can create here a very new page to start everything from the beginning. So let's say new pen. Okay. And then at the same time, you can go with this notepad. But for simplicity, let's continue with this Codepen. But in the production, you will be using, hopefully in your companies, you will be using most times the IDEs such as VS Code, Atom. So, and then what else? The most commonly used one is the Atom, and then VS Code, Visual Studio Code for running all the programming languages and then frameworks. So here, let's bring all of those stuffs and then run the code over here. You see, everything is just as designed.
Excuse me, Karimek.
Yep.
I think I'm stuck at your previous browser, not the Chrome. I think you changed browsers.
Oh, okay. That's really good to know. Thanks so much for letting me know. Now, how about now the Chrome browser?
Yeah, we can see. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. Thank you. Yeah, this is a simple Codepen where you can run HTML, CSS, JavaScript codes, and we'll still continue today how to design, how to apply CSS for our HTML. So let's go back and then start with our very basics of HTML. So can you guys see my slides regarding about the CSS?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, perfect. Introduction to CSS. So these are the main topics for today's talk. So what is CSS, history of CSS, and why do we need this one? Has someone heard before what is CSS and why do we need, guys? Actually, I briefly mentioned about CSS last time, and I would be happy to hear your inputs before we get started.
Cascading style sheets, basically to improve the look and feel of the website.
Yeah, that's a short and sweet answer. Thank you. Essentially, this is used for the design in the building or giving the attractive viewpoint for the architecture of HTML. Okay, so let's say you build everything based on the HTML and still looks like the elements, the context, the contents, everything is just in black and white, and nothing is really impressive. Okay, so you want to give styles, you want to apply locations, you want to change their positions, you want to apply, you want to give dimension, shape, and then border. Let's say whatever you want regarding the design, all can be done with the help of this really cool feature of computer science concept, which is called CSS. Okay, it's a language. Okay, cascading style sheet is the acronym, and then the abbreviation is this CSS. So this is, as you mentioned, and then as we also briefly described, that used to format the layout of the web page. For example, can be used to define the cell, a padding of tables, what else, margins, okay, the distance and the dimension and thickness, even the color, table border, let's say, and then border around the image and other objects. Okay, this kind of all stuff can be done with the the CSS. So we said that earlier. So here, HTML, you can think about it just a skeleton of any web page, and then CSS is the presentation and an appearance part. You see, this is the skeleton, and somehow the skeleton is now, covered with the clothes, okay, with different colors. So this, this skeleton has now somehow really attractive this kind of equipment, tool belts, and what else, glasses, even different borders with some corners, curvy shape of the, let's say, muzzles and everything. Okay, those kind of features, properties can be accomplished with the help of CSS. And then so let's jump into the history. So it is actually, as I mentioned, a great feature that computer science, the IT technology has released ever. Okay, and this is one of the key integral part of today's every single web application. Okay, so there is a guy whose name is Hakon, released this first draft CSS version in the early 1994s, but to make it fully functional, full-fledged, it took three more years. Okay, and then in August 1996, Microsoft Explorer became the first browser to support this CSS that was developed back in 1994. And then ever since, CSS has been used in the vast majority of the projects and widely, and still one of the, as I mentioned, one of the pillars of today's web application. So why do we need to use this? We already know. You see, this is the definition for design, for presentation, and how the syntax should be written. Okay. Now we can directly start with our practice part, because we already know now. Why CSS? Okay, and when we know the history, and then the purpose we know. So how can we accomplish this one? So CSS can be applied for this piece of let's say web page in 3 ways, in 3 different ways. We can directly use over here how to change the color of this header. Okay, so let's say I can directly write over here style with the keyword of style. Let's say border, okay, and so on. This is the first way. I'll go just the ways how can we apply. Second way is we can put somewhere at the top of the head, okay, around here like this. So with the keyword, actually I can show it with this you know, the notepad. So since we have here head, body, everything, okay, I can show over here as well. So style, and then we can go with the element names or whatever you want. Okay, this is the second way. How can we apply the CSS? And then third way is you can completely implement a separate file. Let's say new. Okay, let's say new, and then it takes all the CSS you know, stylings, so you can import this file name in your notepad, so it your HTML benefits from all of those CSS stylings. Okay, this way we can end up creating the CSS in 3 different ways. So we will do all of those step by step, but it could be, you know, the interview question in how many ways you can implement CSS. So, or you can use CSS with HTML in 3 different ways. Okay, directly inside the element itself, so that's called inline, or inside my HTML with the keyword of style, that's internal, or with the help of, you know, external file. So you can go and then create a new notepad or new page where you will implement all of those CSS stylings, and then you will import them in your HTML. So that's 3 different ways: inline, internal, and then external. Okay, so let's start with the very first simple ones, which is called inline. Okay, so inline means, in other words, so we can directly implement the CSS in our HTML element. Okay, directly. So for example, how can we do? Let's try to change the you know, the color of this header. Okay, so style, and then over here I can change color, and then I can write this one as the blue, or let's write red. See, save, and then now the color is red, no longer black. So let me pull it down over here. So this is a very simple inline CSS application. Color red, header color red. Okay, and then if you want to you know, give more further you know, designs, let's say not only color red but also border. Okay, border. So we can say that border is gonna be 1 pixel solid, let's say blue. Save. Yep, this is our header. So color red and then border 1 pixel solid blue. This is how we apply inline directly. And for this H6, I want to apply from you know, internal CS, I mean internal logic. So over here at the top of my body, okay, at the top of my body, inside head, I can start writing style, and then I can call this H6 with its name. So H6, okay, and give him, let's say, actually this style, okay, this style is not a keyword, but is an element. So style, and then I have to close this one, style. And now I can call my H6 and then give him a color. say color green. So where is my H6? It's over here. Okay, so look at the difference. Now this is inline and this is internal. So if you want to go with the internal, so we need this a style tag name. Yeah. So if you want to go inline, so directly go using the style keyword, and then apply all of those CSS properties. Now, what is the difference in the real world project? Why? Which one is better? So in this case, if you use inline, we have to apply CSS for every single element. Say that you have hundreds or thousands of HTML elements. So we have to write for every single HTML element separate inline CSS, these properties. Okay, that's the downside of this writing CSS inline. But if you go with the internal, you can select multiple CSS at once. So like this, H1 and then H6. So you don't need for this one, okay? And then give for all the same, property. Now this is also green, this is also green. You don't need to write for every single. So you can also give here for, let's say, which one? For P also. P, H, H1, H6 all becomes green. Okay, that's the benefit of using inline. So you don't need to write like one by one for every single element. Make sense? So let's see what is next. So how can we select the elements now by going its element name? So what is the name of this element? It's just H1. The name of this element is H6. Okay, I want to give the green color for all H1 and then H6. Okay, I have to select H1 and then H6 and then just put here color green. Okay, or I want to give some background. Okay, background. So let background be something like teal, and then this is gonna be, let's say, gray. Okay, so color is gray, not gray, let's say white, and then background is teal. Now all H1 and H6 are not with the color of white and then background of teal. Okay, but if you want to make it separate, so I want only H1 be the color of white and then background teal. Okay, then don't include that H6 and write separate H6 CSS selector. So Control C, Control V, I want to make it black and then the background tomato. Okay, so this way H6 has become background of tomato and then the color of black. However, H1 is still white and then the background is teal. Okay, that's the advantage of using the internal styling technique over inline styling technique, right? So you can select multiple at once and then give or apply those CSS properties. So this is called property, this color, background, this is property, and this is value. Okay, and then this H6, H1 are just a selector. So what are you selecting? I'm selecting H1. What are you selecting? H6. So let's select, for example, image, right? Okay, so this is the name of my image. Now I have to go and then jump over here just by typing img, and then I want to give some different width, okay, dimension. Actually, you do have here dimension for, I think, image. Do we? Oh, we don't have. We have only for this one. So we can remove this one at this point, okay, and we can fix all images with the same width. So let's say 200 pixels. So all the images will go with the same dimension. So this is gonna be 200, this is gonna be 200, okay? And then height, let's apply height as well. And let's say 200 pixels for the height. Yep, this is my second image. This is my first image, all having the same size. Okay. But if you want to go with the separate, image sizes, so you can choose either inline or other steps that we will be talking in the upcoming hours. Okay. Any questions until this point? Let's make it H3. Looks too small. And then why now it's back to black, guys? It used to be, it's supposed to be tomato. The background supposed to be tomato. Why it's now again white? Any answers?
Probably you don't have any H6.
Yeah, we don't have any more H6, but we just changed H6 to H3. So we have to go back and then apply the correct selector. Now this way, it goes and then finds H3 and then applies that selection. Okay, cool. So this is the way how we can select and then apply those CSS properties. The CSS selector points the HTML element you want to style. So we are pointing to P, H3, H6, and so on. In this example, P is the selector. Look at this. Okay, and it means that all text in P elements will be blue. So let's apply that one as well. I'm gonna go here, P, and then make all the colors look blue. Okay, so how we have to write the HTML correctly is first select and then go with this curly braces and then write your property. So this is our property color, and then value is going to be blue. Okay, so we can there are many bunch of CSS properties. Let's say CSS W3 school. It shows you a vast knowledge. So let's say colors, regarding color. So you can choose whichever color you want, and then let's say border. You want to change the border. Okay, so just this one. What is that? These are the classes or CSS. Okay, this one, selectors. So selectors, P selector. Okay, select by element name, and then element by ID name, select by class name, and then select by class name inside P, and so on. Okay, these are the selectors. So here, particularly, we are now using select by tag name. So all P elements on the page will be center aligned and so on. Now, so the declaration block contains one or more declarations separated. So you can put as many as different properties like color, background, border, and so on. Okay, so what happens if we put, let's say, background tomato, color black, and then color, let's say, red again? So what happens? Probably it overrides. The latest one overrides. Okay, because like many programming languages, it runs from top to bottom. Okay, initially the color used to be black, and then we just converted to red. Okay, this red overrides. Okay, so that's why be careful. And now it's whatever the color is. Okay, and the next step is the declaration must be surrounded by curly braces and end with semicolon. Okay, so this one, semicolon, semicolon. So this is also important, and then this colons also very important. Not equal sign, but colon over here. Okay, so we know how to apply now background and then the color for the text. Cool. So we mentioned that external, internal, inline, okay, and the multiple CSS styles. So external is something we can link from different files. Okay, so for example, you have this kind of file name, file.css. So we have to use this HTML tag, which starts with the link, and then put over here as href that file name. Okay, so internal is, as we mentioned, we already started working. We can use internal with this keyword, which is tag name style, and then it is located between this head at the top of body, and then you can start selecting by their element name, p, body, and so on. And the inline, we mentioned that directly you can go and then start with this keyword style equal to color and then blue. So for example, over here, so even though, look at this, P is selected blue, I want to make this particular paragraph to be, let's say, something different. Style, let's say color, well, light green if we do have, not sure. Looks like, okay, we do have, okay, light green. Why? We have already applied the blue for all paragraphs, but here, when we apply this inline, it's somehow overwritten the one that is over here. Okay, and then the rest is still blue. Okay, this is blue, and this is supposed to be also blue because this is also paragraph. However, I used inline, and now it became green. Why? Because when you use inline, even though you use over here, the P used to be blue, inline is more has higher priority, guys. Okay, has higher priority. Not only it is located at the bottom, but also it has higher priority when you use inline or styling. That it just overrides. Okay. So that's why this inline is more specific. That's called in the CSS the concept of specificity. Here, okay, why inline is overwriting? Because inline is more specific than internal styling. Okay, inline is more specific or has higher priority. That's why it become light green, or we can put here something different, blue back, or not blue, let's say green. Okay, makes sense? Cool. Inline, and then multiple styles and cascade rules. So for example, what it means is you can still use all of them at once. So link and then style and then P. What happens is that in this example, the color of P element is yellow because of cascade rules. So here we are using external link and then internal style, and then as well as inline styling. So in this case, this inline overrides. Why? Because we said that inline is more specific and has higher priority than any other selector. So even though you use link, even though we use the style, this inline is has higher priority. Okay. Okay, CSS selectors, and then CSS selectors used to select HTML elements. We already started selecting like this P, color red, and then so on. So now, how about if we, let's say, if you wanna select multiple at once, let's say this one, and then I'll go with another P. So for example, this P, okay? I want not all P's paragraphs to be blue, but only a second one. So I can give him ID, okay? So like this, ID second paragraph. And then for this one, I can give ID, let's say header, and one more ID, let's say, no, we don't need this one, only if this is enough. So I want to give blue color for for this paragraph, okay, and then red color for the second paragraph. So in this case, instead of selecting all the P's, I can select by ID name as well. So let's say that's C. Now, so second paragraph goes red. Look at this. It's now red. And then if I go here, P, and then make it color blue, it just applies the blue for the first paragraph, and then the second paragraph is still red. Why? So I actually selected all paragraphs to be blue, okay? So this supposed to go blue, this one's supposed to go blue, but only first one is going blue, second one is still red. Why? Because second one has ID. And when you select your element with the help of ID, ID is, guys, more specific than element name, okay? In other words, we can write here that the more specific is the inline first, and then that's greater than ID, that's greater than element name, okay? So if you go with the inline, okay, that's the most specific at this point. But if you go with the ID, is the second most specific. And if you go with the element, is the least specific. So now, look at this, I'll just remove this one. Now, I selected using ID, even though I selected using this P, ID is still more specific. Okay, so this way we can also select the CSS and then HTML elements, apply all of those stylings. So second paragraph is red, and then the rest P is the blue. Okay, and let's say another selector. So ID, okay, text one. The ID selector uses ID attribute to select the HTML element. The ID is always selected, guys, with the help of this hashtag. Okay, never forget about it. So if you give ID to particular element, always you have to use hashtag to select that element. Okay, so how can I select? It's just by writing here this pound sign and then header. So this name can be anything, any kind of string, any kind of word. So it can be, let's say, title. Okay, so you can just go and then select by using this title name, and then I want to make it color red. And now let's see, red color becomes red, even though we applied here H1 white and then teal. So it's now title, the ID is more specific. But even though you put this one at the top of this H1, still doesn't change anything. Look at this, title is still red. Why? Why the H1 didn't override the title? Because look at this, ID is more specific than element name, tag name. Okay, that's why that's important. ID, if you select with the ID, that's more specific. Even though you have here H1 making color to white and it didn't affect. Okay, but if you go to H1 and then apply style directly over here, style, let's say color yellow, everyone will be wiped out. Just this inline will be applied, because so far we have learned that the most specific or inline CSS is the highest priority, or has the highest priority, or has the most powerful effect. Okay, even though we selected using the ID, even though with the tag name, but the inline CSS is just overcoming on all of those selectors. So this is the most specific. But we said that the downside of using the inline CSS is You have to apply for every single element to give them styles. So that's why this is not the best approach for CSS. One of the best approach is using either internal or external link. So here we are doing with the internal. So just the ID, and is the more specific than this selecting by element name. Okay, makes sense. You know that those are important rather than building like the CSS and the HTML. Understanding that those concepts are more important. Also during the interviews, that makes really sense. So why you select with ID? Why not element name? Or why internal? Why not inline, and so on? Okay. Cool. Next, and we can also apply class. Okay, let's go and then work with the class. Now, class ID can be, guys, unique. I cannot give the same ID to H3 as well. ID should be always unique. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Okay, it may not crash, it may not damage your page, but the moment someone sees that you gave the same ID name to different HTML elements, oh, you still don't know this one. Okay, that kind of treatment you may be, you may be faced. So ID should be unique for every single element. So once you gave ID for header as title, okay, so the next ID shouldn't be any more title, maybe something different like subtitle. Okay. However, let's say I have multiple, let's say, subtitles like this. And this is H4, this is H2, this is H4, and this is H2. And look at this. So I have to remove this one. I have to remove this one. Okay. So I want to give for H2, H4, and then let's say for this P, okay, H4, H2, and then P, same color. So what is the first way? Giving the same color for H4, H2, and then P is just going and selecting like H4, H2, and then P, right? P, let's say color, this case, yellow. Now, H4, H2, and then P is yellow, but yellow looks really awful. Maybe you can select different color. Let's go with this state blue. Light blue. Yeah. See? So now H2, H4P, and then let me put here another element, something like called, let's say, span. Okay, and it has lorem as well. So I have to select this span as well. This is also a HTML tag name. So here, this one also goes with the slate blue. Okay, and then I have another element which is let's say UL. Okay, inside the UL I have li, which is, let's say, Nissan, and I want to give this li as well the same color. Okay, look at this. Nissan is also the slate. But look at this. What am I doing? I'm listing one by one every time, right? So I want to give a slate blue for H4, H2, P, for span, for li. So if I have more elements that I want to apply the same color, I have to list every time one by one, one by one, one by one. Okay, so like this, li, what else? Let's say A, and what else? Let's say other element H5, H6, and so on, so on, so on. Okay, I have to list one by one. Instead, I can give them common class name. So class name can be common. ID should be unique. That's really important. ID should be unique. Once you give ID for this H1, you don't need to give you mustn't give this ID name for the same name to another element. Okay, but if you want to apply class, okay, that can be common. So now class, let's say main body, something like that. Okay, or main text. So I can give this class for whatever I want. This one, and then for this one, and then what else? For this one, and then for this one. Okay, now instead of listing them one by one, I just need to go here and then write the class name to make them all slate blue. Okay, main text. And be careful that when you write a class name, you have to start with the period. For the ID, we have to start with hashtag. However, for the class name, we have to start the period, this one, okay, dot. And now everything that has this class name has the same CSS property with this color. This slate blue, and slate blue, slate blue, slate blue. Okay, that's why class ID are also another important part in CSS design. Make sense? So now this one has the same class name, this one has the same class name, this one has the same class name, and this one has the same class name as well as this one. Even if I have like 100 of elements, I just have to apply this class name, and then with one single selector, all elements that contain the same class name will be affected. Okay, so let's say background goes to something not violet, maybe some kind of this color. Okay, we can even apply with this format, with this RGBA. Okay, you can directly go and right here. So background. Okay, so that's gonna be your background. So either RGBA or either the directly name, okay, or what else? Either hexadecimal. So like this. This is also another possible color. Okay, hexadecimal hex. Now this looks like kind of orange, but I don't want orange. Let's say leave with the slate blue. Okay, so we covered how to apply CSS in HTML elements. First, inline, which is you're gonna directly write over here inside your HTML with the keyword style equal to, let's say, border. Okay, 1 pixel, let's say dashed, if it works. 1 pixel dashed, yeah, you see, or 2 pixel, or let's say a 10 pixel dashed, black. You see, 10 pixel dash. This is the directly we are applying. This is called inline CSS, or I mean internal. This is how we are using the internal, where you can apply the CSS properties for multiple HTML elements. Okay, rather than going one by one. And the same way we can use external. So we will take everything out over here. We take everything out and then just copy and paste to different file, and we have to call that file name with this link element. Okay, so link, and then we have to put here href and then that file name. Let's say styles.css. Okay, something like that. Then you don't need this one. All the selections will be coming from this external file. That's called external CSS. And then also, how can we select the HTML elements? either with the help of element name or ID name or class name. Okay, so far we applied 3 of them. So this is ID, this is with the help of element directly, and this is with the help of class. What are the differences between selecting by element name or class name or ID name? Okay, we will continue after the break. So come on again, a little bigger. So this is, as we mentioned, inline, or we can go with the internal. Let me just get rid of this at this point. We don't want. Okay, let's quickly wrap up the ID and then class. That's actually important to understand. ID should be unique for every single element, and then class can be common. You can give, let's say, one name for all the entire HTML elements, the same name. Okay, and when you call with the same class name, and the CSS property will affect on all of them, whoever has that class name. So from that perspective, class is really useful. And then if you want to like apply specific property, then ID is the best candidate. So what happens, let's say here, if I have both ID and then class name. So let me put here ID and then just give here different title. So this is waterfall. And then let me put here waterfall. And so we already applied class over here, the main text, okay, which is slate blue, and the background is this red, green, blue. And but for ID, based on the ID, I want to also apply something. Let's say this one, and then color be not red, white this time. Now, why this waterfall has become white now? It used to be slate blue. Is it because of their order? Is it because of their ID or class? Yes, probably it is because the ID or class. Now, if I take this class and then put somewhere before class, I mean this ID, okay, even though this ID is located before the class, it's still white. Why? Let's go and then write the priority one more time. Every time inline has the highest priority, and then comes ID. Okay, then comes class, and then comes element name, okay, or tag name. This is how the comparison goes. So if you apply CSS directly inside the HTML, that would be applied. If you apply HTML, I mean CSS with this ID, with the help of ID, that will override whatever you have earlier with this tag name or class name. Okay, so if you apply CSS with class name, that will override whatever you have earlier with tag name. If you apply with the ID, that will override whatever you have with the class tag name. And inline can overwrite everything, whatever you have applied earlier. Okay, this is how priority goes in an ascending or descending order. So ID has more higher priority than class. Class has more priority than tag name, and this is called specificity. If you go and then look, let's say CSS specificity. Okay, this is one of the commonly asked interview questions. What is CSS specificity? So it means by which browser decide which CSS property values are the most relevant to the element. Okay, so you can also select and then look into more deeper. So specificity hierarchy. Inline has more higher priority than ID. ID has more than class. Class has more than element. That's what we have learned so far. Okay, that's why this is really important. Even though you applied with the class, but if you want to apply with ID, that will override. But even though you applied with ID, class, or tag name, and then you still want to go with the inline, inline overrides everything. Okay, that's paramount concept. And let's continue the next. The universal selector. This one, guys, applies. This one applies the star, selects all the HTML elements in my document, and then applies, let's say, color blue. It means that all HTML elements on the page becomes blue. Let's try. If I put somewhere over here, okay, I want to make everything look blue. So look at this. Now, it might not directly apply. Why? Because we have way different selectors over here with ID, with tag name, with class name. Of course, they are more specific than this, just a star sign. But if you don't have all of those stuffs, let's say this, okay, just remove temporarily, and then everything becomes blue. This way you can apply it sometimes. Otherwise, just go with this CSS selectors. And comments. So why do we need comments? Yeah, browser doesn't display the comments, but for better understanding, for better code readability, we can apply writing comments. Okay, so the comments can be implemented with this within this two slash, okay, right slash, and then this asterisk. Look at this. For example, I can put here some comment to make my code more readable. So star, where is that? So here, and then so let's say applying white color to let's say second or third subtitle. So this is just gives me more information about my styling and coding, and this will not affect my design. This is just a comment. If you want to go down and then still continue writing, just click enter. This will still be considered as if this is a comment. Okay, applying white color to third subtitle, and then let's say here one more. Change color of all main text classes and so on. Okay. In many programming languages, many times during the development, during the project implementations, you will see the comments. Okay. So for CSS, for JavaScript, for other programming language, you see comments that gives you more in-depth clarification of that particular line of code or piece of code. Okay, that's just a informative part of your coding, doesn't affect on the overall outcome. And then next one, the box model. Okay, this is another concept. What does box model mean? So here, look at this, guys. Box model in CSS means that every element has their own box model. So this header has its own box model. This one has its own box model. This one has its own box model. This one has its own box model. Everyone, this image has, paragraph has, span has, everyone has their own box model. What do they mean, box model? So box model means it has steps that makes this header that makes this subtitle, that makes this image, that makes this paragraph. Okay, what are those steps, or what are those levels? So the very inner level of that box level is content. Content here is my header, the text. Okay, the next level is padding. Padding is the space between my content and the border. Now, if you look at on the left side, guys, here, we don't have any space, right, between letter H, and then the border. It means we have like padding of 0. But if you pay attention careful over here, there is a padding, there is a space between this H and then the top border, top line. There is a space, that is a padding. Okay, so there is a padding between my content and then top border, as well as bottom border. That's padding. So that's also the part of box model. So for this particular H1, I have the levels of box model. First one is content, second one is padding, and third one is border line. So this is my border, okay? See, I have border. And then the fourth one is my margin. So if you pay attention here, there is a space between this box, okay, and then my left border of my document. There is a white space. That's called margin. So margin, border, padding, and content makes me a box model for this particular HTML tag, H1, or HTML element. Okay, well, look at this. Box model, all elements HTML files is considered as boxes. The box model term is used to describe box that surrounds an element. It consists of margin, border, padding, and content. So look at this. This is margin, border, padding, and content. The content is the text or whatever we have, okay, itself. The padding is the transparent area around the content. The padding is always, guys, the gap between content and border. Okay, so this is a darkish blue region. Padding is the content, the gap between content and border, and border is the place that surrounds the padding, and the margin is the area between your page and then your border. So let's analyze in our real world example. I'm going to go here and then go with the inspect, and then if you just go with the element, look at this. I'll select this H1 and then go here. So where is my H1? So it should be somewhere. That's footer. Actually, if I run this, my previous HTML, okay, it will be better to explain you. So let me, okay, I don't want this one. Let me open this, and we don't have anything. So for this one, the header we have here, let me quickly put style. Border 1 pixel, solid red, and then background, let's say green. Save and then refresh. Now let's analyze the box model of that header. So when you click the right button of your mouse, there is an inspect, okay? And then from inspect, you can go and scroll down. You can find this box model. For that particular element, the box model is here, H1, and then look at this. So I'm highlighting here the content, which is this one, okay? And then comes padding. There is no padding, okay? And then comes this margin, the yellow. There is a margin, and this is the border, and padding, and then content. Okay, now, how can we change them? The padding, the margin, and then let's say those borders, okay? So if you go back and then put here margin, let's say 10 pixel, so it's gonna apply margin from top, right, and then left, and then bottom, evenly 10 pixels from all sides, okay? So let's save and then refresh and then see that there is a margin 10 pixels from all sides. You see 10 pixels from top and then 10 pixels from right, 10 pixels from bottom, 10 pixels from left. That's how we managing the margin, okay? So, and then 10 pixels from this right side as well, this one. Now I want to apply some padding. How can we move this content, this header, from left to right? Okay, so if you apply this, some padding to the left part of this text, so this text moves to the right. Let's go and then put here padding left, okay, and then let's say 20 pixels. Save and then refresh. Now the header moved from left to right because there are 20 pixel paddings. If you see here, look at this padding left, and it shows me 20. Okay, and then it's even highlighting. Yeah, that's how we can move things to inside the box. And you can also move from top to bottom and then bottom to top and so on. Let's say padding left and then padding. Oh, but if you just put here padding and then let's say 30 pixels, it applies 30 pixels from all sides, from left, from right, from left, I mean, from bottom, from top, okay? Look at this, from all sides, from left, top, and then bottom. Yes, any questions?
Yeah, I think you need to change the browser again.
Why? Oh, you don't see, guys?
No, I think you changed your browser a couple minutes ago. Yeah, now I can see, yes.
Yeah, this is what I'm showing actually. Can you see, guys?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, you see, guys, here margin, 10 pixels from top. And then the padding from left, from top, from bottom, and then from right. And then we have content itself. Okay, this is how we can manipulate the box model. So can you guys see my notepad now?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, I just went to H1 and then applied this border and then margin 10 pixel and then padding. Look at this, margin 10 pixel. So it means that margin is the space that pushes your box from your browser, from your main window. Okay, so 10 pixels from top, left, and then bottom and right. This is how I just applied margin 10 pixel. Now let's go back to our example and continue with the same. Can you guys see my Chrome browser now, the Codepen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Now for this header, that is, I can select that header separately over here, or since it has the ID of title, where is that title ID? It should be somewhere over here. Okay, so I can apply padding. So let's say 10 pixels. Now the content is moved 10 pixels from left, right, top, and then bottom. Okay, and how about the margin? Margin just pushes everything from left, right, top, bottom to the into the center part. For example, if you put here 20 pixels, so we will have 20 pixels from left, 20 from top, 20 from bottom, 20 from right. Okay, so every single HTML element, and you see guys my PDF, right? The slideshows. Okay.
Yes, we can.
So all elements in HTML is considered as boxes. The box model is used to describe box that surrounds an element. Yeah, the content, padding, border, margin. So this is also another interview type question. What is box model? So you can say every HTML element has is considered as box, and then it has levels starting from content, and then padding, and then border, and then margin. Okay, that's what box model is actually. So border property is border. Let's play with the border. So we have different border properties. For example, I want to apply border with the solid line, solid black, not 1 pixel, but maybe like 5 pixels. Okay, this is how we can manage with the border. Now, total, how many pixels, how many pixel distance we have from content to window is you can calculate. So the padding 10 pixel means that from content to the border, you have 10 pixels. And then border is 5 pixels, which is 15. And the margin is 20 pixels. So from this letter to my window, okay, to this edge, to this corner, I have total this many pixels. So 10 plus 20 plus 5, which is 35 pixels from edge to this corner. Okay, the same way for these letters, but this letter is lowercase, but still considered to be the same, you know, at the same level as content, and it still has 10 pixels padding from border, and then plus 5 pixels border, and then 20 pixels margin. That makes the distance between my window and then my content. Okay. And what can we do with the border? For example, I can make border radius to change a little bit curvy, let's say 20 pixels. So it now becomes a curvy radius. Look at this. Okay. And then what else? I can go border radius, maybe just top right. Okay. Only the top right, or border radius maybe right top. Let's see. Okay, and there may be different CSS selector for that. Quickly, let's go. Border radius top right. Top border top right radius. Okay, border Control X and then top right radius. Yeah, 20 pixels. It just changed me this top right. Okay, and then maybe one more. Control C and then Command V. Maybe top. Not top, but bottom left radius, 20 pixels. Okay, this is how we can play with the border. You can also make it dashed. It just puts you, it's intermittent lines and so on. Okay. And then also we can play with the some. So let me make it just solid. Okay, just a line, solid line. And we can also give some shadow for this particular box. So box shadow, it's gonna be, let's say, from all parts. Okay, so 0, 0, 0, 10 pixels. Let's say black from all parts. So kind of it's doesn't really look good. So again, no worries with the shadow at this point. Otherwise, get confused. But as for the border and top right radius, should be clear. How about for, let's say, H1? I can give what is my H1? Not H1, maybe subtitle. Okay. So do we have subtitles separately selected? So we don't have, looks like. So we can select that subtitle. And then, so that since that's ID, we have to start with the hashtag. And then I can just go with the border radius, making it 50%. It becomes completely circular, kind of circular. Okay, tries to be circular. But since the content is really narrow, it doesn't become circular, but you can still apply like 10% border. Okay, so as a result, you end up getting only 10% border. Maybe we can just go with the pixels. Yeah, and then we can also apply, padding, as we mentioned earlier, for the contents. Let's say 10 pixel for this one as well. So the text goes 10 pixel from all parts, okay, from top, from bottom, from left, and then the right. And for example, if I put here margin top, it just pushes my this subtitle, let's say 50 pixels from top. So 50 pixels. So the distance becomes 50 pixels. Not only 50 pixels, 50 plus. So it has also margin 27 pixels. So the difference between this and this element is 70 pixels, because 20 pixels is coming from the header and 50 pixels coming from this lower component, lower element. As a result, the total will be 50 pixels. Okay. Now let's continue. If we have the next border properties, yeah, and we can apply different styles, so like dashed, dot, solid, double, groove. Let's say go with the double and then dot. And for instance, for this one, border and 2 pixels, dot red. It is in fact red, but not red. Let's say green. So we will see that dot, dot, dot. Okay. And maybe double, like 5 pixels. There's gonna be double line. Okay. This way we can play around with the borders. Cool. Any questions, guys? So you can just put here none, for example. So the border just goes hidden without any border. And then inset, you can also select. And then style, for example. Yeah, the border style property can have from 1 to, let's say, 4 values. So it can take maybe rich, maybe dashed, maybe solid, maybe double. Okay, and I think we already did over here the same styling. And border width. So we can apply also border width. Look at this. For this particular, let me go and then select another one. Maybe this main text. Okay, so let's give some border width. Main text. Okay, border width 10 pixels. Let's see. So nothing is visible, but we have to apply the border first. Border, let's say red, not red, black. Where are the main text? Yeah. Here, 1 pixel solid black, and then everyone has now, you see, 1 pixel of this border. However, border width, let's go back and check. And yeah, we have to apply this first, these different parts, and then it becomes visible. Okay. Otherwise, we just want this solid black, and that's also applicable. And so this border width is applicable only when you have this different parts. I mean, border style. Okay. Otherwise, yeah, this is the most common and then the simple one. Or we can directly put here the width. Okay, like this. And margin, we already mentioned about it, margin property. Okay, so margin is actually used to create space outside of the borders of each element. So there are 4 different properties for setting the margin. So margin top, margin right, margin bottom, margin left. So for this one, we can play with the margin bottom, let's say bottom, and then 10 pixels, 20 pixels maybe. And then everything will be pushed down after these elements. Whoever has this class will be pushed down 20 pixels. Okay, so look at this. This one has the main text class. I'm pushing things to 20 pixels down. And then who has? So this one has. Okay, let's double check main text. Who else has? Main text for this one for span. Okay, and then for this UL. And there's something confusing this one. Yeah, for this Nissan, and then for this span, everyone is just pushing things 20 pixels down, margin bottom with this property. Or we can just apply margin. It applies 20 pixels from all parts. Okay, from all parts. That's how it works. And so margin properties can have the following values. For example, the length of the margin calculated automatically, auto. You can also put here auto. Let's try for the first one. This is title, margin 20, but how about auto? Auto. So margin auto means that it automatically puts in the center. Okay, so somehow it is centralized. So from left, from top, from right, I have this in the same pixels. So it automatically calculated me to put into center when I use this margin auto. And then length, otherwise we can use. Also percentage we can use, okay? So let's say margin left, this many %. And then inherit, this is also another powerful property where the margin is can be inherited from parent. So let's say we don't have still at this point the parent, but we can inherit the margin if it has the parent. Let's say this one is the child for another HTML component or HTML element. Okay. So before going further, what we have covered so far is, guys, the CSS specificity. Okay, that's really important. And then box model, and then box model consists of what? Content, never forget about, and then padding, and then comes border, then comes margin. Okay, so every element can be considered as if they are box, and then they have these many levels. So based on these levels, we can take into under control the text, the box, the element itself, and so on, the position of the the alignment of the text, and so on. And specificity is really important. The most highest priority has this inline selection, and then comes ID, then comes class, and then comes with tag name selection. Okay, so this could be, potential interview questions. What is specificity? What is box model? Okay, any questions at this point? And margin, to summarize quickly, is the gap, okay, between border and outside, let's say, environment. And then padding is the gap between, or space between, content and border. Okay, and border is let's say level that surrounds padding and content. So border doesn't surround margin. Inside border we have padding and then content. Of course, padding is outside of the content, but border is outside of padding. Okay, so these are the definitions for the concepts we have covered. And so, yeah, margin, how can it be applied? Margin top, you see, guys, bottom, right, left, and then border. Okay, so there is a shorthand property for the margin. Let's say, let me remove this, or just put a comment. Okay, this way we can comment out. For example, I want to give some different margin. So for this one, like 10 pixel from top, and then 30 pixel from right, and then 10 pixel from bottom, and then 40 pixel from left. This way we can also apply different margins. So since margin takes 4 different values, or it can be applied in 4 different ways. So this first goes top, second goes right, third one goes bottom, fourth one goes left. Okay, now top has 10 pixel, right has 30 pixel, bottom has 10 pixel, and then left side has 40 pixel. Okay, this is how we can apply margins. Or another shorthand is, let's say this one is not margin top, but just margin 50 pixels, and then let's say 20 pixels. What makes it is, guys, this 50 goes to top bottom, and then this 20 goes to right left. Okay, in this position here, we have 50 from top, 50 from bottom, and then 20 from right and 20 from left. Okay, this is another shorthand. But if you just leave one, it's going to be for all sides, 50 from all sides. Okay, and you can also leave like this. That's shorthand property. And we can also go with the only 3 of them. So for example, 2 margin values. So let's see, 3 margin values first. 3 margin values are used. The order of the margin values, like top margin, and then right, and then left margin button, and then bottoms. Look at this top. So the first one goes to top margin, and then second one goes to right left, and then the third one goes again bottom margin. Okay, top, right, left, and then bottom. When there are 2, so the first, what is that? The first one goes top bottom, and then second one goes right left, as we already mentioned about. And auto, we practice this one, can be set to auto. The browser will calculate the margin and horizontally center the element. Okay, it automatically applies the margin by calculating according to your browser. And then, yeah, before going with the inherit, do you guys, do you have guys questions regarding these positionings, class ID?
No, thank you. It's going well. Are you going to share with us this one as well? If you can.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Just take it, guys, and then you can fork it and play around. Okay. Once you get this link, just fork, and then this is gonna be yours.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. You can take the open the link. If you don't have account, you can just sign in with your single signing credentials. So let's apply the margin for this image, for this first particular image. So to select that image, I can give, let's say, ID. Okay, the first image. So let's say margin left. Okay, margin left, and we can give like 50 pixels. So just to push the my first image to 50 pixels to the left. Let me make sure if it's correct first. IMG, and where's my first image? Oh, it pushed the second one, sorry. Not this one, Control X. I would like to put to here, Control V. Say, yeah, you just push the first image to 50 pixels to the right, because I gave here 50 pixels of margin left, okay? And then maybe 150 pixels even to push more. Okay, and then we can give border radius of let's say 20 pixels to make it curvy. Okay, actually we can just write here auto, so the image goes directly to the, oh, this is because okay, got it. So we have to wrap with another element to push into the middle, otherwise it won't go, but we can just write here 150 pixel from left. Great. And then 20 pixels border radius. Cool. This is how our image looks like, and the borders and everything. Okay. So I'm trying to include all the main concepts in this one single example, but when it comes to build one better looking web application or web page, so you can first start with planning. What are you gonna design? What are you gonna architect? And then based on that, you start applying your CSS. Otherwise, this is just everything is in one, and then trying to cover the concepts. So I really recommend you to maybe follow this now W3 school contents. They have really smooth and then the clear explanation of those concepts for HTML, for CSS as well. Okay, you can directly go and then try over here without even copying and pasting and so on. So try it yourself. You see, background color, and then color, text, align, font family, and so on. Cool. So in fact, we are in good shape. We covered a bunch of concepts which are really important to understand initially. For example, you may just be like copying and pasting one's code, but by understanding, it would be a great asset, a great advantage for you by writing things by understanding. Okay, so why I'm writing here hashtag, why I'm using this just element name, or why I'm using here the period. Okay, this is because class. Okay, why I don't use here ID and so on. ID can only be unique, class can be common. Okay, you can apply one class name to multiple, but you cannot apply ID names to multiple. Awesome. Let's have a break. Yeah.
Can you please slide the content on the right side, please? Below?
The display?
Yes. So, like down there, it's like very overlapping. I mean, why is it like that?
Okay. So this is because span. Okay, and then let's have a break, and then we will analyze and fix it. Okay, no worries.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, let's have a break. Okay, let's get started. There was an issue, kind of this was overlapping. So let's try to fix that. What's going on? There's an image. And it looks like this image is never closed. That's one issue. And then we have a tag. So let's take this and then put it P. Oh yeah, that's it. Because of that span. Span is a different kind of element that gives sometimes confusion. No worries. Anyway, we are applying our CSS based on our class name, which is main text. Okay. So this way we solved our problem. Now, next step, let's see what is auto value. We covered this one, and then we have inherit. So here we have, let's say, one parent element, and then let's say one child element. So if this parent has margin, and then we can use margin inherit to get that 20 pixel in our child elements as well. Okay, this way we end up applying the same margin for child, and then at the same time for the parent. Okay, that's how inherit works. The margin of an element can be inherited from the parent element using inherit value to the child. Okay, padding, and give a second. So padding property, we said that it's gonna be the same like so like in margins, it can take 4 different values. Let's say first image, right? Not first image. Let's who is this one? But what if you already this main text? Okay, so for the main text, let's apply different paddings. Padding, we can give top like 10 pixel, and then you get this, or 10 pixel padding for those who has this main text class name. And then I can just copy and then paste over here for right, 10 pixels for the right. Okay, over here, look at this. Or I can make it even bigger, 30 pixels from right. So there are 30 pixels from right. And then let's say from bottom and like 20 pixels. So we will see 20 pixels from bottom. Look at this. So 10 from top, 30 from right, 20 from bottom, and then one more from left. Let's say even 50. Okay, 50 pixels. So this way we ended up giving 4 different paddings for this particular class name, whoever has this main text. Okay, and as a shorthand, we could have given also like this padding. So top is gonna be my 10 pixel, and then the right is 30, and then bottom 20, and then left 50 pixel. So 50 pixel. This way is also completely same as this one. Okay, so we can remove that. And nothing has changed. Everything is applied separately, but writing shorthand is way better. Or two value like padding, and then top left, let's say 20 pixels, and then right, top bottom 20 pixels, and then right left 40 pixels. We can remove that, this one. So this way, we have top bottom 20, look at this, and then right left 40. That's also possible for paddings. Okay, so we can calculate the distance between content to until the margin, right? So from top we have 20 pixels, and then border is 10 pixels, so 30, and then margin 20 pixels again, so total 50 pixels from content to this image. Okay, from content to this image. So if you put here margin, let's say 0, and then remove this border to none, and then padding to 0, okay, and so we will see that this is gonna just go and then attached to whoever is there at my top. Okay, because nothing, there's no border, no margin, no padding, and no distance between this text and then this image. Only you see some default gap between them that can also be utilized. I mean, there's somehow can be eliminated, okay, after a crucial analysis. But anyway, the content is almost attached to my whoever at my top, okay, by putting this everything to 0. So there is some default gap. That's what creating me. So let's put everything back. Yep. And then push as we designed it. Cool. We mentioned the padding property. The next is used to define space between the element's content and the border. Okay, bear in mind. Shorthand, we worked on it. So the first one top, second one is right, and then bottom, and then left. 3 padding values. So if we apply it this way, so it's gonna be top padding, and then the one in the middle is gonna be my right left, and then the one on the right is my bottom padding. And then 2 padding rule. So top bottom and then right left. So box sizing property, what does it mean? So let's go and then create another HTML element. There is a called HTML element. Let me put it somewhere over here, called div. Okay, so this is actually not paragraph, not header, not li, or not a list or span or anchor tag. This is such a division you can understand to create some boxes. Okay, so div is generally used for creating containers to wrap things inside. For example, you can put paragraph inside, and then maybe some other headers inside this div. So for wrapping this kind of HTML elements, div is a great option, and it occupies the entire screen width the moment you create. For example, let me write here hello, and then see how this div big is. Let's say this is my wrapper, okay? And then based on this wrapper, I can apply here CSS class, and then check how big the width is. Border 1 pixel, solid red, let's say. It's over here, yeah. You see, it's occupying my entire width. the moment it is created. So this width, this width is the whatever the available width at this point. Okay, you cannot go beyond, and that's why the div is always occupies the entire. And then we can modify the div. So based on this class, you can go up and then change the width. Let's say I want to make it width that it occupies only 50% of my entire page. Okay, and then height, let's say around 60 pixels. So it occupies only 50% of my available space. It's gonna be only 50%. Okay, and I can give some margin like auto, so it's gonna be in the middle of my page. You see, in the middle, and then only occupying the 50% of my available space. And then the height. Okay, so let's give background color. Light blue, and then color just black. Yep, that's how we can change, apply the same CSS styling for the divs. Let's continue. And in the example below, the div element is given a width. So this is the width. Okay, you can customize the width size by percentage or by the pixels. So here in this case, we customized using the percentage. Actually, we could have given like maybe 100 pixel as well, okay, or 110 pixel. So it wouldn't be any more. So what is this? Okay, it wouldn't be any more 50%, but only 110 pixels. See, and what is the padding of this div is nothing. You see, the padding is nothing, guys. And we can apply, and margin is also nothing. So let's put margin. Whatever this guy has margin, that's what pushing us to down. Okay, so let's say margin top, I can put here more 20 pixels, and then padding from all around 10 pixels. So as a result, we just push the contents a little bit towards the center. Okay, and then we added 20 pixels on top of this one. And then also, oh, here we have margin auto, and then actually we could have put here 200 pixels and then auto from horizontal, and then we can remove this. Okay, so 200 pixels from top and then auto horizontally. So top, bottom 20 and left, right auto, and then padding 20 pixels. And we can also change the font size to, let's say, 30 pixels. So we will get a larger text content. You see, larger text content. Continue, and to keep the width, no matter the amount of padding, you can use the box. Okay, now look at what's going on here. And so look at this, the size. Okay, if I give this many padding, let's say 60 pixels, what happens? Look at the size. Size now enlarge it, right? Based on the padding. If I make it 100 pixels, size goes up again. But if I make it box, this one, box sizing to border box, box sizing to border box, look at this. Use the box sizing property to keep the width at 300 pixels, no matter the amount of padding. So even though we apply different paddings, the width will be always the same when we apply this box sizing to border box. Okay, box sizing is border box, and the width is this one, and no matter your padding is anything, the width is always same. Okay, width is always 120 pixels. I mean 110 pixels. And even though your padding is 100 from all sides, let's say 100 from here, 100 from top, 100 from bottom, from left, but the width is always same. Otherwise, the width also is going changed and changed. Look at this. The width is getting bigger and bigger. Okay, so this is a great property. If you put box sizing equal to border box, it just keeps your width the same, even though the padding is different. Okay, look at this. The width is 110 pixels. That's another important property. And the inherit, we already mentioned about a parent and then child, how we can inherit the paddings, inherit the what is that, margins. So fonts, okay. So we have different properties for changing the fonts for family and style, size, weight, and so on. So look at this. For example, font family. I can apply for all the same font family. Okay, let's go here and then put for all font family and Arial. Let's try. All should go with the same. It's not Arial, but this one is. Okay, all should go with the same font family. Everyone is now Arial. Okay, and what else we have? CSS font family is. You can go and then check over here. So we have our Arial sans serif on Helvetica. Let's get this one, or not sure, maybe kinda this one, Courier. Okay, to see the real change. And let's see. Everyone goes to that particular font family. Okay, that's how we can change the font. And the next one is font style. Font style is to set the font style italic or oblique, for example. Font style, I can make it all of them font, not this one, maybe only the subtitle. Okay, font style italic. This is the way how I convert it from normal to italic. Yeah, and then I can make it even bolder, like just by going font weight. Okay, so bold makes it bold text, font weight. And for example, we can take this one and then apply for paragraphs as well. Let's say, where do we have paragraph? We have paragraph in main text, right? Let's apply for that main text as well. Bold. So everyone is in bold now. You see, is in bold. And what else do we have? Font style, different font styles and sizes. So we can apply different sizes. For instance, this one, font size. So we can go with the pixel regular. Actually, by default, it's 16 pixel. If anything is less than 16, it gets smaller. But by default 16, and let's say 40 pixels. So everyone who has this class name will go to 40 pixels. So it means that this one has class name of main text, class name of main text for this one, main text of this one, and main text for him, and then for him as well. That's why they all went to 40 pixels. Okay, or just 20 is enough, I think. In other option, we can go like this. 1 rem. So 1 rem is actually again the regular size. Okay, and 2 rem is the twice big as from the regular size. Like it is, if it's 16, and the 2 rem is 32 pixels. You see, so you can just go with the 2 rem. Let's see. 1 rem is equal to the current font size, the default text size in browser 16. So default is 1M, 1 rem in 16 pixels. And with the viewport unit, which means viewport width, the text size will change. Of course, if the screen say change, also this text size changes. That's what they mean. and the font size sets the size of the text we already mentioned, or you can even go with the percentage. Okay, so you can apply different percentage for the font sizes. And font weight, we mentioned that it can be bold, it can be this many bold or lighter. Let's put here maybe lighter. Who is this first image? Oh, we don't have content for that one, right? I can take it out, maybe put for the wrapper and see how our hello changes. Yeah, this is, there is no change, but maybe we can put here some number 200 for the wrapper. Still same. Font size and maybe in pixels. Yeah, still same looks like, but let's put here bold. Yeah, this is now bold. Wrapper is now bold. Okay, and padding is 100% from all sides, but the width is still 110. Since there is no meaning of applying padding from right and left, we can only apply from top and bottom. So right, left 0, top, bottom, let's say 20 pixels. Okay, right, left 0, and top, bottom 20. So this is top, bottom, and this is right, left. Oh, right, no, sorry. There is no point of applying the padding from right to left. So we can put here, let's say, top, bottom 20 pixels, and right, left is 0. Okay, right, left is 0. Yep. And this is its own default space because of there is no enough text. There is still space because of these 110 pixels. Cool. And font variant. Font variant defines the text to be displayed in a small caps, but all lowercase letters are converted to uppercase letters, but in a smaller font size. For example, font variant small caps. This is smaller. Welcome to Clarusway. And then small caps, all lowercase letters are converted to uppercase letters, but in smaller font size. Let's try this one, font variant. Small caps. So this is actually used to be small, now all converted to uppercase. So this way we can capitalize letters. Okay. Okay, any questions at this point regarding CSS, guys? So we can practice over here. We covered many great concepts. Okay, so if you go and then check, let's say, CSS interview questions. Okay, so 30. Let's try to answer them. Yeah, what is CSS? We already know. Okay, so this is a cascading style sheet, and then you can say that. So this is the way how we can give the presentation or the view level for the HTML design or HTML elements. Okay, as a result, we end up building attractive, attractive and way meaningful web page with this CSS. Also, you can go above and beyond by explaining, the features in the CSS and then the levels. Currently, we are using CSS 3, and you can also go with the CSS 3 features. What are the new features in CSS 3? Okay, because there used to be CSS 1, 2, and then now there's 3 features. This is the latest evolution. Okay, after CSS 2, and then it has, you see rounded corners. There used to be no, border rounded, but in this CSS 3, we already see that we can apply border radius, right? So that's what rounded feature for CSS 3, and then shadows we can apply. For example, let me apply one shadow for him. So this also not possible for CSS2, but in CSS3 it's okay. Box and shadow. Okay, so like 0, 0, 0, and let's say 5 pixels and gray. So again, I'm applying here shadow for him, but also let me remove this and then maybe remove this. I'm trying to apply this gray from different parts. You can make it maybe 15. You see the shadow, okay, for this particular card. Yeah, that's what shadow means. And then what else? The other features, gradient. We haven't mentioned. That's another concept. Transition, animations. So you can rotate. You can slide. You can apply sliders and so on, progress bars, so on, in this particular CSS3 features. But we have covered at least half of them. Okay, so that's what you can talk during the interviews regarding just what is CSS. Okay, so CSS3 features plus it's the purpose of CSS. And then what is box model? You see, guys, I randomly opened this link and it shows me whatever we have talked so far. Box model. What is box model? So we already know that every element can be considered as a box. So they have levels from inner to all the way outer environment. So inner level is the content, and then comes the padding between content, and then the border, and then comes border, and then comes margin. Margin is the space between border and the outside environment, which can be window. Okay, that's what box model is. And then here are the definition that we just mentioned. So what are the advantages of using CSS? And so you can select that easy to maintain, separation of content from presentation, and use it effectively, and so on. Okay, of course, advantages can be answered the same as what is CSS, and then what are the advantages. Of course, it gives you a great visual effects, functionality. I mean, not functionality, visual effects, and then dimension, and presentation level, and so on. What are the limitations of CSS? Yeah, we cannot apply like the power that can do JavaScript with CSS. So we cannot make things functional or clickable or so on. Okay, those are the limitations, I would say. Currently using CSS, you can't select a parent tag. This is also another limitation. What else? Another, how to include CSS in the web page. Yeah, this is how we can include, okay, just by using the link tag, external, so on. What are the different types of selectors in CSS? Yeah, you can tell me, you already know what are the different types of selectors, guys. How can we select in CSS the elements? By what?
By ID.
By class.
Exactly. Tag name, right? And also by this asterisk that applies for all HTML elements that includes in this particular document. Those are the selectors. Of course, we have another selectors as well. We haven't covered, that's called Pseudoselector and pseudo class and so on. But this is already the concept we mentioned by element type, okay, by element name, by ID, by class. You see, guys. And then we can also using these descendants, for example, container and then box. I want to select a class box inside ID container. Okay, this is another descendant combinator. No worries. So this is not that actually difficult. We haven't covered this one. This is also another type of selector actually. So for example, I want to select only, let's say here we have H1. Not H, the H1, and then we have P, and not okay, P, and let's say inside div paragraph, and then inside div header. So since we have this wrapper, and then we have here ID equal to the inside inside div. Okay, so I want to select only this based on this class. So that's called the descendant selector. So first I have to select this one, which is wrapper. Okay, wrapper. And then inside this wrapper, I want to apply color only for this one. So I have to select that one like this way. So hashtag and then this, let's say color, make it teal again. So no one will be affected except only with this guy. Okay, look at this. This inside div header is selected. First wrapper, and then inside wrapper, this inside div goes to teal. See this inside div. Where is my header? Kind of mess things up. What is that? Wrapper inside div, color teal. Why it's going that up? That's header actually. Okay, let me make it now header. Let's say H6, and then this is also H6. Not that big. Inside div header, inside div, and then wrapper ID. Inside div header. Somehow went out because of the space. Let me. So this is a div, and then this is H6. Let me remove this one. Let's see how it looks inside div header, and then I have hello. Let me take this out to confuse everything. Okay, H6. Inside div, it has color teal, and then let's say margin 0, and then padding 0. Yeah, this is why we ended up selecting only this header based on this parent class name and then its own ID name. Okay, this is parent class and then this is ID. I'm first selecting this one and then inside the particular ID. That's descendant selector. Okay. So even though let's say this is a class, and why I'm here to select this one. Look at this now. This is also class inside div. Let's say this is outside. And this is since class, I have to change it from ID to class. Look at this. This is a parent class and this is the child class. And there's a parent and then child class. But this, they have the same guys class name inside div, inside div. And let's see, will it take the same CSS property or not? It won't. You see, this is somehow not affected, but only this one is affected because of this parent descendant selector first, and then I'm getting into this inside child HTML element. Okay. In fact, they have the same class name. Look at this inside div, but I want only the one that is inside my wrapper. Yeah, this is the way how we can select things using that descendant selector and child componator. There's a little advanced selector. Let's go to the next question. What is CSS preprocessor? We haven't covered. This is advanced CSS. This CSS preprocessor, actually, I can say that is CSS next level CSS that can do things that regular CSS cannot do. Okay, so CSS preprocessor is, you can say, advanced level that can accomplish that regular CSS cannot accomplish. Okay, so what is VH, view height, viewport? We already mentioned. So VH is, you know, the viewport, view height, the observation, the current observation of the page, or maybe measure of equal to 1 ratio 1/100 and so on. Difference between the reset and normalized CSS we haven't covered. Inline block, yeah, this is also another important. We haven't covered. It's important to test what is pseudo element, Pseudoselector. These are the selectors. What else? Specify units. How do you specify units? That's another concept. You see, CSS is actually another programming language. It takes some time to digest everything. Otherwise, this is not difficult. As I mentioned earlier, HTML&CSS is really simple, guys. Don't get afraid of it. It's used for changing the font face, a font family. Okay, what properties to change the font face is font family. We just covered it. What is the difference between adaptive design and responsive design? Responsive that focuses on showing content on the base of valid browser space. So based on the browser screen size, it adapts itself into that screen size. Adaptive design focuses on development based on the multiple fixed layout sizes. Selectors match against how is border box different from content box? Border box is default value for box sizing. Yeah, box model, you see. And how is opacity? We haven't covered that one. Yeah, I'm trying to find out what the questions that we can answer based on the knowledge we covered so far. Okay. So yeah, well, again, it's asking the CSS. What is CSS? These are the positions. And then CSS custom with the root is a variable preprocessor box sizing. Yeah, this one we already mentioned. Border box sizing. You can answer this. Okay. It makes every element of the document include the padding, the border, and the linear dimension for the height and width complete. So box sizing border box makes your width constant, even though you apply different paddings. So you still maintain your width constant. Okay, the width is going to be always constant. Okay, this important I didn't mention, but I can say that what is this important is. So for example, look at this, guys. We say that the inline property is the highest priority, right? If you apply here style color red, okay, it can override whatever you selected so far. It can override. But there is a keyword called important. Okay, if you use this important for, let's say, for this, let's say, look at this here, style, color red. Anyway, it's red, let's say color white. Okay, now this inline overwritten everything, whatever, in spite of the fact that we applied some CSS rules, right, above. Now this overrode. Now, what about if I, let's say, select this ID, okay, not ID, maybe H1, just H1, and then put here color blue. This blue doesn't work, right? Because I'm already applying the inline CSS, which is the most powerful so far. But if you put here important, guys, if you put this important, this will override everything, even though you applied this inline CSS. Okay, this makes everything, overwritten, and then no one is powerful than this important keyword. So now this one has become blue because I put here important. Actually, I selected using tag name, which is the least powerful or the least prioritized selector. But with this keyword, it has become now the most powerful. Okay, so now if we go from powerful to the weak CSS selector, so always comes first important, and then inline, and then ID, then the class, and then the tag name. Okay, but if you selected something with the tag and then putting important, makes that one the most powerful. Okay, so this ordering is really important, guys. Never forget about it. So your coding will be really clear and understandable and error free. And most of the time, people don't understand the difference between ID and then applying the CSS inline, applying CSS using class, and then keep complaining why I have errors, why I am getting those kind of mistakes, and then still don't see the change and so on. Because of this concept, because of lack of this concept, okay? This is important. Look at this. Important is always the most powerful, this keyword, and then inline CSS, ID, class, and tag. Cool. And what is specificity? Yeah, that's what we just mentioned. A process of determining which CSS rule will be applied to an element. Okay. It actually determines which rules will take precedence. Inline style usually wins the ID, then the class. Okay. And then the element itself, and then the universal selector. ID selectors have higher specificity than attribute selectors or class selectors. That's what I'm trying to explain over here. Okay, that's called the concept specificity. People still can work with CSS by classes, by IDs, but lack of knowing this concept specificity may lead you to generate some errors in the future. That's why this is a concept, which is also a potential interview question. And let's go. What are the concepts we have covered? Yeah, how is margin different from padding in CSS? You already know margin property, using which we can create space around the elements. Okay, but using the padding, we can create space around the content, not element. So look at this. So by applying margin, we can create space around this. And then by creating padding, we can create space around this content. Margin around element, padding around content. And what else? Next one, yeah, these are the. Why do you have to do automatical number of heading values? And child, we haven't covered. And this is sprites, we haven't covered them. Yep. Somehow, we did a great job today. Okay. You did a great job. Any questions, guys?
I have one question. I'm sorry if I missed and you already explained, but why don't we use this CSS in the Codepad? Is this like external styling or external CSS? Yes.
Yeah, we can use the same way. Yeah,
it basically works like Notepad, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can just grab everything. Yeah, thanks for the question. You can just grab everything over here, whatever we did so far, and then take it out, okay? And then becomes this goes default, and then just put over here, and then remove this style. I don't want this, and then everything becomes as we supposed to show them. Yep.
I have another question, top of it. Could we use another application like Codepad? I've seen like Brexit or Bex.
What do you mean? Can you elaborate?
Some tools to write the HTML code other than the Codepad.
No, of course. This is just a browser-wise, and we have many, great IDs. As I mentioned earlier, for example, one of them is, let's say, VS Code. So you see, so let me open here one simple folder, and let's say Clarusway, and then I can open this with VS Code. So did you mean this one? IDEs, so we can run HTML, CSS.
The Codepen browser.
Can you see now my screen?
We can just see the Codepen browser.
Can you see my Codepen now?
Yeah, yeah. Now we can see the Visual Studio Code.
Yeah, Visual Studio. This is not Codepen. This is the Visual Studio. This is an application so you can download and install on your operating system where you can run different, extensions. For example, here I can create, let's say, index CSS, or I can create here index HTML. For example, if it's index HTML, I can create here one very quickly. So H1, okay, and then and then put over here, let's say style, and then just select this color red, and then you can just go and then run this open with live server. Can you guys see my browser?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this way we can also run. And whatever we have done here in our Codepen, where is that? If you can see now, hopefully. And
Yes, we
so
can.
we can just copy whatever we have done so far and then run inside this Codepen or Atom and so on. These are the environments you can work with HTML, CSS files.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. Any other questions? Martina, you have a question?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could share this link in the chat.
Yep, let
Codepen.
me share one more time. Yep, and you can fork it so it becomes yours.
Thanks.
And we kind of built a little, unorganized web page, but I tried to include all the concepts in this single example under the hood of these samples. But as long as you grasp the concepts, so you can start with your own idea and then apply all of those steps to make more presentable, more organized web page. From this point, we have already covered the great vast majority of the concepts. So that would be enough, I think, to build your own web page in this Codepen or using the VS Code or just Notepad. Okay. Awesome. And it was great to have this section for you guys. And wish you good luck. See you hopefully next time.